story time. Yay! Once upon a time, there was a king. Tell me if this story sounds somewhat familiar to you. There was a king, a great warrior named Gilgamesh.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he and his friend Enkidu went on many great adventures together, some of which offended the gods. After one adventure, during which they killed a mighty beast called the Bull of Heaven, the gods were so offended that they sentenced Enkidu to death. So they sent a sickness upon Enkidu, and he died. Yeah. Shaken by the death of his friend and a sudden awareness of his own mortality, Gilgamesh sets out in search of his ancestor. I almost said it wrong. That would have been horrible. Utnapishtim, to whom he's heard the gods long ago granted immortality. Gilgamesh finds Utnapishtim living at the mouth of the rivers and asks how he too can achieve immortal life. What's that? We'll get there. Utnapishtim tells Gilgamesh that while he was king of Shurka, the god Enki, the god of wisdom and purification, appeared to him in a dream and warned him that after a secret meeting, the gods decided to destroy humankind in a flood. To preserve life, Enki ordered Utnapishtim to disassemble his house and use the wood to build an enormous boat called the Preserver of Life. Enki drew up plans for the boat, which had 7 floors, and it was divided into 63 sections, taking a team of builders 7 days to complete. Enki commanded Utnapishtim to bring his wife and family aboard, along with the craftsmen who helped build the ship, some baby animals, their silver and gold and grains. The storm began, flooding the earth, wiping out every living thing that wasn't on the boat. It lasted 7 days, after which the preserver came to rest on Mount Nisir. Sorry. After resting there for 7 days, Utnapishtim sent a dove to find dry land, but it returned, indicating that the waters were still on the earth. After 7 more days, he sent out a swallow, but it too returned. Finally, after 7 more days, he sent a raven that did not return. Utnapishtim released all the animals and made a sacrifice to the gods. For their faith, the gods rewarded Utnapishtim and his wife with immortality and honored places among the gods. Therefore, Utnapishtim tells Gilgamesh he was granted immortality under very specific conditions. So, it's impossible to achieve immortality. And he tells Gilgamesh to abandon his quest. Gilgamesh insists he's worthy, so Utnapishtim gives him a test to prove it. Stay awake for 1 week without sleeping. Gilgamesh fails to make it even a single night without sleeping, though he claims he was merely resting his eyes, which our uncles do. Utnapishtim then gives him another task, to retrieve a plant of youth from the bottom of the sea. Gilgamesh is successful at first, but a serpent comes along and steals the plant and swims away. Accepting he's lost his opportunity for immortality and renewed youth, Gilgamesh returns to the city of Uruk and finally dies. That sounds a little familiar, some of that story? Yeah, it's from a story called the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is certainly one of the oldest pieces of literature that we have. It dates to around 2100 BC. Yeah, it's an old story. It's almost a 5,000-year-old story.
I've heard of this story, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Why?
Another story for you. There was once a righteous man named Noah. However, he lived in a time when humanity had become wicked and corrupt. Seeing this, God decided to punish all mankind with a great flood. All except Noah and his family, who found grace in the eyes of the Lord because they loved God and obeyed him with their whole hearts. God commanded Noah to build an ark, and on that ark gather 2 of every sort of animal to be saved from the flood. Noah followed God's command and, along with his sons, built the ark. In the 600th year of Noah's life, quote, the fountains of the deep burst apart and the floodgates of heaven broke open. Rain fell on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights until even the mountaintops were covered in water. The water remained on the earth for 150 days, and every living thing perished, except for Noah and his family and the animals that were spared. As the waters receded, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, but Noah and his family remained on the ark. Noah sent a raven and a dove to search for dry land, but the dove returned. After 7 days, Noah sent the dove again, and it returned with an olive leaf in its mouth. After 7 more days, Noah sent the dove, and it did not return, indicating that the waters had subsided. God then called Noah and his family and all of the animals out of the ark. Noah and his family emerged from the ark and built an altar to sacrifice and praise to God. God set a rainbow in the sky as his covenant with Noah that he would never flood the earth again. That story sound familiar? Yeah, it's from 1700 BC. So roughly around the same time as the Epic of Gilgamesh. Two different cultures, two different places, very similar stories. So it kind of begs this question, why do we have such similar stories from two completely different cultures? I got one more for you. Although life was often difficult, the first people lived together in harmony with all creation. But the harmony did not last long. Man and woman did not continue to live with each other. Man and woman did not continue to give each other the respect needed to keep the sacred hoop of marriage strong. So their husbands and wives were fighting. Nothing has changed. Families began quarreling with brothers, killing brothers. Villages argued over hunting grounds. This strife greatly saddened the creator, Gilgamesh, who saw that the entire creation functioned in harmony except for the people. Their evil ways in return, who were the last to be placed there. Why can't I read this one? Gilgamesh patiently waited for the people to turn from their evil ways and return to respect for all creation. When it seemed all hope was lost, Gilgamesh decided to purify the earth with a flood. The water came like a mush kobewun, a flood, upon the earth, so quickly that it caught all of creation off guard. Most all living things drowned immediately, but some animals were able to keep swimming, looking for dry land on which to rest. Some of the birds were caught in the air and had to keep flying in order to stay alive. The purification of the earth with water appeared to be complete. All the evil that had built up in the hearts of the first people had been washed away. The only survivor was a man named, and I'm not even going to try it. I will try it. Wanabuhuzu. There's a guy with a long name. We'll call him W. The only survivor was a man named W, who saw the flood coming and was able to build a raft from sticks and logs, saving himself and the surviving animals. They floated on the raft for over a month, but the waters refused to recede. So W decided he would rebuild the earth using mud from the old world, digging it up from the sea floor. That sounds somewhat familiar, some aspects of that? Yeah. That's a Native American story. It comes from roughly around the same time. Yeah.
Is it weird that this reminds me of like a movie with this similar type of idea?
No.
Oh.
It shouldn't, because that's where we get our ideas for movies and things.
Yeah.
From ancient literatures. Yeah, and so keep in mind, again, completely different continent, completely different people, telling a very similar story. Yeah, the details are different, but I'll spare you. We've got here another one, the Epic of Atrahasis, the Aztec flood myth. We've got the Hinking, which is from China. All of these stories coming from around the same time, within a century or so of each other. So it begs this question: why do all of these cultures around the world, and by the way, if you're looking at a map, all of these cultures around the world are writing very similar flood myth stories in the same time period, the same idea. By the way, the same reason for it. Mankind is evil and wicked, has to be purged from the earth so that things can be rebuilt anew. It's all the same story. So it begs the question, why do they all have the same story? This is the kind of thing that Carl Jung is trying to answer. Why is it that as humans we all have these kind of similar memories throughout time? They all have the same kind of key elements. As I was just saying, humanity has grown wicked, so it's always about humanity. It's not nature itself that's become wicked. It's not that the birds have started to commit genocide. It's that humans are wicked. We've done terrible stuff. God or the gods become angry. There's only one righteous person who survives the whole thing. That one righteous person is spared, always along with their family, because there's something that goes along with that. Like, you can become almost righteous because of who you were raised by. In other words, good people beget good people oftentimes. There's always doves that are sent, strangely enough. A sacrifice is always given afterwards, and the gods afterwards promise to never flood the earth again. Yeah. So our question and issue that Jung is pursuing here is, how can cultures from all over the world, all throughout time, have very similar memories of a flood event? So I'll write that down. How can cultures from all over the world have very similar memories of a flood event? How can cultures from all over the world have very similar memories of a flood event? How can cultures from all over the world have very similar memories of a flood event? This guy right here, by the way, his name is Richard Paul. He's the guy who came up with those posters on my wall, parts of thinking, the elements of reasoning. That's the guy who came up with it. He died a few years ago. I got to meet him. Good dude. One of my master's degrees is based on his work. I like this picture because it's so stupid. I met him a couple of times, and one time I gave him grief over this picture. Well, what's with that picture of you online where you're all like Mr. Deep Thinker? And he's like, you don't think it's a flattering picture? I said, I think it's a terrible picture, man. It makes you look like pretentious and so full of yourself. He liked the picture. I thought I made him look like an asshole. But he liked it, so in death, that's how I remember him, the picture he liked. So again, the things that we're talking about with regards to the similarities, it's not just creation myths. It's all kinds of things. It's myths, yes, it's dreams, of course. It's phobias, fears that we have. Morality, notions of right and wrong. Understanding of symbols. And this is, if you get deeper into Jung, this is like his big thing right here, symbolism. And then like, what constitutes a hero? What constitutes a villain? If I go to China today, and if I take John over there and say, the man's a hero, they would revere him. They're like, wow, he's a hero. And they would know some things about him. They would know that he's brave. They would know that he's self-sacrificing. I wouldn't have to tell them what a hero is. Now, if we're sitting there, I go, all right, John, ready? Here we go, boom. And all of a sudden we transport back to 3000 BC in China. And I tell them, this man right here is a hero. They would say, whoa, they would revere him. They would know that he was brave, self-sacrificing, blah, blah, blah. If we then transported to the Americas and we encounter the Aztecs, and I tell them, hey, look, this guy right here, he's a hero. Same thing. They would revere him. They would know these characteristics about him. In other words, we share an idea of what a hero is, of what a villain is. It doesn't matter what culture you're in, what context you're in. You might think like, well, in one culture, a hero is self-sacrificing. But in this culture, a hero is a coward. No, we don't encounter any of that. It's uniform, man, all across time, all across cultures. None of that stuff changes. Questions so far?